Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. What a great audience. My name is Andrea Montero. I do product here at Porter, and I'm also your host for today. Thank you. Now, I'm actually really happy to be back in New York. I used to live here for almost 10 years, and it's just really great. I think it has to do with the fact that New York has wonderful and really unique things, such as Central Park and the Chrysler Building and Pizza Rat. And of course, also, Porter is headquartered here in New York, but that doesn't really mean that Porter and New York are exactly alike. In fact, do you know what's the difference between the Porter platform and New York City on New Year's Eve? We don't drop the ball. All right, enough of the monologue. We know that the best part of any show are the guests, and I have 3 stars for you today. Now, earlier this morning, we had Michael and Scott on stage, and they were sharing some trends with us. These trends are giving us direction and focus for today's session, and that focus is shared by our customers. This is how we're innovating together. All right. Now, for our first customer, we actually have the leader of a $7 billion luxury retailer that is working to enable trust-first experiences. Please help me welcome to the stage Chief Omni and Innovation Officer, Noam Paransky.
All right, I guess I'll sit. Hi, I'm really happy to be here. I'd be remiss not to call out, I know there's a lot of people in the Porter community who weren't able to make it here, who are most likely still in Israel and weighing some really heavy stuff. My mother's Israeli, and my thoughts and prayers are with all the impacted parties with this whole situation. But I'm happy to be here supporting the community and engaging with you guys here today. I'm with Tapestry. We're a global house of iconic brands. We're the parent company of the Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman brands. You may have also seen us in the news making some waves with our agreement to purchase the Capri family of brands for $8 billion, and we're looking forward to joining those brands into our family, most likely in calendar 2024. I joined Tapestry as Chief Digital Officer, so you'll see that my title has changed. But in the first few years with Tapestry, my focus was on building a global digital platform, people, process, and technology, the resources and capabilities that go along with that. Those investments in business practices and consumer preference and, yes, a pandemic allowed us to grow our digital sales channel pretty significantly. So when I joined a few years ago, about 8% of our global sales were digital. Today, it's about 30%. So that's a growth in channel from about 600 million to about 2 billion. And then, as we've grown that digital channel, and you can see kind of like the change in title, our focus has been on Omni and Omni-channel. We're looking on focusing and expanding our same platform principles to all of the touch points in the consumer ecosystem and life cycle. In particular, stores are an area where some of these kind of digital advances and platform principles weren't always evenly applied. And I think there was this kind of notion of like death of the stores before the pandemic. And the very interesting thing about the pandemic or the post-pandemic environment is kind of the rebirth and the reconstitution of stores, because people love digital engagement and people are on devices 13 hours a day, which is really frightening. But they still want to get together in person. That's why you guys are here. That's why people come into our stores. So how do we approach this kind of platform principle and the investments that we're making and how we're prioritizing what we're doing? So it's ultimately about consumer centricity. Everyone's going to say that. Like, what does that mean? So for us, number one, it's doing research and looking to understand the consumer and thinking about all of the touch points end to end, whether it's a social ad unit or engagement on our website or what's happening in our stores. And ensuring that each touch point is, for lack of a better term, a value exchange, right? If the consumer is engaging with us and they're questioning, why did I click on a social ad unit? Why did I visit the website? Or why did I visit the store? Like, we're dead in the water, right? So the fundamental focus is, how do we make each of those touch points inspiring, engaging, high utility, right? So that's kind of like the inspirational part of the equation. And then there's the kind of friction and trust side of the equation. So how do we make for a streamlined, delightful experience? And how do we ensure that we don't have things like risk management getting in the way of that, right? So, I love the store environment for a number of reasons. That value exchange, the touch points, the whole thing plays out in front of you. You can see a consumer come in, engage with an associate, and the associate is the best personalization engine I've seen yet. Some technologist is going to disagree with me, but they're constantly understanding and scanning the landscape. They may understand the consumer from previous engagement. They may ask the consumer, hey, are you in our system? They can look them up. And frankly, they're experts at sizing up what's in front of them. Okay, what's this person? What's the body language? What are they wearing? And then most importantly, the engagement that they have with the consumer. Most importantly, how can I help you? What are you here to accomplish? What are you interested in? What are your preferences? Ultimately getting to that, really great experience. So as we think about how we think about our omni experiences and our investments, we look to the store as a North Star. And there's a lot of trust that goes along in an in-person relationship that, of course, gets, a bit convoluted and conflated when you're in the digital environment. And so in the digital environment, we're thinking about how is the experience ever more relevant, each touch point being relevant. So we think about it, everyone goes straight to personalization, but the first thing for us is about adaption. So what you need at the beginning of that conversation, hi, welcome to Coach, what do you need, is very different than the conversation when you're trying to decide between one bag or another, or you're trying to figure out the outfit for a party, right? So understanding those experiences, stitching them across, and building that relevance is really important. And then ultimately, when it comes to transact, of course, if the money is good, like, we want to take that order. And then there's a whole follow-on life cycle. And one of the areas that we've been talking to the Forder team about is around the returns experience, which is a prototypical risk-first experience. We and everyone else has a terrible experience for everyone because of what might happen. Like, oh, well, someone might make a return and send back a brick, my logistics team might say. Hey, how often does that happen? Oh, that never happens. Okay, so what's the problem? There's no trust. But because of that, we create an awful experience for everyone. And so along with the brand storytelling and the product value proposition and all that we're working very hard with our marketing teams to develop, thinking about segmentation and journey, all that's great. But it all breaks down if we won't take the order, or after they make an order and for whatever reason they want to trade out what they have or they don't like it for this point in time, we say, we don't trust Holiday. Hey, in 3 weeks, send this in 3 weeks, we'll credit you your $500. At that whole time, where's the value exchange? I'm holding $500. I don't really want to, and they really, really want their $500 back. So, working with partners like Forder, we're trying to think about and bring people to the table around how you think about the value exchange. How do we use data and models to get over some of these issues? And how do we ensure that we're having the conversation about what's the right experience, not how do we manage risk? Some of you may have titles and jobs that your job is to minimize risk. And I was talking with my Forder team yesterday. My job assuredly is not to minimize risk. I'm an officer in the company. I'm a fiduciary. But my job is not to minimize risk. My job is to build a business and manage risk and reward, right? And I think that the Forder team and the tools are particularly adept at doing it, but it is critical that when we're talking to each other, we're talking about that openly. Because I think a lot of people in the room are wired this way. Even Forder may be wired this way. They were telling me very proudly, we got the chargeback rate down to some ridiculously low number. And I said, well, that's good, but that's not good. Because how much revenue are we walking based on that very low chargeback rate? Even though I'm very grateful for the ability to have that option on the table. So yeah, that's a lot of what we've been kind of working on and talking about with our Forder team.
That's great. Now, thank you for that insight. You are actually a relatively recent customer of Forder. How did your team go about choosing Forder?
Yeah. So talked a bit about building that kind of global digital platform. And so before we did that platform build, we had one of those kind of older rules-based fraud management tools. And we ultimately ended up in a real-time bake-off with 3 parties. And Forder was the clear winner for us in terms of the ability to manage both the effectiveness of the decision-making and the ability to handle some complex aspects of our business.
That's great. And can you share maybe some other key decisions for our audience that you and your team made that allow you to have the space and freedom to think about value exchange and trust first decisions?
In terms of the selection or in terms of today?
In terms of either today or where you're going.
Where we're going. Again, I think a lot of what the team is focused on is, looking at each point of the process. Like the checkout process, obviously you guys are, helping us to manage that pretty effectively. But where are the other points in the journey where understanding who the consumer is, what the potential risks and rewards might be, and then, either A, how do we adapt the experience, or how do we manage that risk-reward dynamic, sometimes leaning towards reward and sometimes leaning towards managing risk. So, we had some very fulsome conversations with our account team the other day about, thinking about, how do we manage things like shipping fraud? How do we manage the sliders between chargeback and revenue? And then we've worked with the product team here to marry up you guys and Narvar to think about how do we take these kind of richer data pools, so taking really rich data on the transaction side and really rich data on the shipping and return side to help to create data that can create better models and allow a more kind of risk managed but more customer friendly experience end to end to end. So we continue to look at each point and say, all right, where are we acting with really poor information? Where are we developing a poor experience, or where is everyone giving a poor experience? And what are the obvious unlocks but that we need help with?
Yeah, and I agree with you. Those type of partnerships can actually be a great collective win and can help many other customers and consumers in the audience. So, Noam, thank you very much for your time today and your insight. Everybody, please help me thank you, Noam. Thank you. Please help me welcome to the stage Suzanne Krpata, SAP's Global VP and Head of Customer Experience. Welcome, Suzanne. It's great having you on the show.
And thank you so much for having me here today. It's really a pleasure to be here. As you highlighted at SAP, we have the pleasure of working with leading companies, including many brands in this room. And one of the things that we consistently hear from our customers is how do we have a better customer experience? How do we connect with those customers more effectively? And especially today, how do we do it across multiple channels in this world that we all call omni-channel? And while I could spend hours talking about how we do that today, I thought it'd be more important for me to share with the audience some customer examples. I know I personally always learn better from examples, and so I wanted to share some customer stories with you today. So the first company that I'd like to highlight is one of our customers called Casey's Brands. You may know them, especially if you're in the Midwest. They're a leading convenience store provider, and they have over 2,000 stores in 16 states. So Casey's ultimately decided to partner with us as they were really looking to try to improve their experience and help customers as they navigate between online, mobile ordering, and even in the store. So as part of the process, we worked with them to really revolutionize their commerce platform and make sure that when they were delivering experiences, their customers were having outstanding experiences, whether it was a physical experience in the store or a digital experience prior to coming to the store. And one of the things that I learned from Casey's that I didn't know before, they sell over 19 million pizzas annually. I don't know if anyone else knew that, but believe it or not, that makes them the number 5 provider of pizzas in North America. And so as part of this process, we help them really enable their consumers to order those pizzas ahead of time, personalize those pizzas, so when the consumers then arrived at the store, it was exactly what they were looking for. Luckily, they actually began this transformation before COVID, so then when COVID hit, they could offer additional services like touchless delivery or delivery to the car window, once again, trying to round out that customer experience and making sure whatever channel they were interacting with the customer, it was a positive example. So on the next slide, I'll highlight another retail and consumer brand that we have the privilege to work with, which is Carhartt. So Carhartt started in the 1800s and is a brand that is recognized for providing durable clothing for their consumers. Well, you can imagine the challenge that Carhartt face because they interact with their consumers across multiple channels. So there's over 50 company-owned stores that Carhartt has today where you can actually go into a store and shop. Carhartt also offers their products on 30 premier brand websites like a Walmart. And then there's also the Carhartt website. So as you look at an omni-channel experience, I, as somebody that's looking to purchase Carhartt, has a lot of different ways that I can interact with the brand. So again, Carhartt chose to work with us on a journey where they made sure to connect those experiences about Carhartt, regardless of the channel of engagement. And after our time together, they were actually able to drive over 70% of their purchases that are on their own direct-to-consumer site are now through a mobile channel. So making sure, again, whether it's buy online and pick up in store, or going to the store, or using a mobile experience, they're once again elevating that customer experience and making it consistent. And then the last example I'd like to share today, and I'm going to age myself, I remember many years ago when I would go back to school for college. What did you do your first day back at college? You went to the college bookstore and you actually got physical books, something that my 10 and 14-year-old don't really understand. But we have the privilege to work with Barnes & Noble's education department, and they support over 500 colleges and universities throughout the country, making sure that the collegiate experience is once again seamless regardless of the channel. Whether somebody's ordering online, whether they're actually going to the campus bookstores, which evidently still exist, or they're working with a partner like Fanatics to actually buy some maybe athletic clothing in addition to their products as well. And so we had the privilege to work with Barnes & Noble to make sure that they could offer those experiences at the collegiate level. But what's so important is that each collegiate level experience is unique. So whether it's colors or mascots or even things about the individual city where the colleges and universities are based, they really delivered a high level of personalization, once again, across many channels. So those are the types of things that really excite me and are a privilege to work with our customers.
Suzanne, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing those great examples. Unlocking omnichannel not only improves customer experience, but it can actually open up other opportunities, including sustainability. Right. Can you share with us maybe a little bit more how your customers are thinking about embracing other opportunities?
Absolutely. So I think one of the most established paths that our customers are taking are buy online and pick up in store. And so what we have found through our research is over 60% of consumers actually prefer to buy online and pick up in store. One, for convenience, but two, for that immediate gratification, right? I can order it today and I can actually have it today. So a lot of our customers are already very advanced with buy online and pick up in store. But we're also seeing customers look at buy online and return in store because that is helping to reduce the carbon impact. And then finally, we also have customers that are using a wealth of customer data to determine how a customer's purchase and return history actually impact how the brand interacts with them. So let's say, for example, to a brand, we look the same. You bought 10 pairs of shoes and I bought 10 pairs of shoes.
I think you know me very well.
But guess what? I actually returned 9 pairs of those shoes, right? So both from a profitability perspective and from a green perspective, I'm a less desirable customer. So we have customers that are looking at information like that, and while they may offer you free shipping and returns, they may actually change their interaction with me and my behaviors and my promotions based about the impact that I'm having on the environment.
And actually that ties really nicely to what we were hearing from Noam today, right? Like the ability to establish trust and then present different experiences based on the behavior that you're seeing from the customers and personalization you can bring to them. Suzanne, one of the underlying bases for connected commerce is clearly the need to understanding identity. How is SAP working with Forder to drive identity-based decisions?
Right. So one of the things that I have the privilege of working with SAP is we tend to have industry-leading solutions. But at the same point in time, we very frequently choose strategic partners to help complement our solution suite. And that's what we've done with Forder. Without a doubt, Forder is the industry leader for fraud and identity management. So what we've done is we've integrated our solutions so our commerce platform can leverage capabilities from Forder like Industry Graph and make it a seamless part of the process. So when I'm a legitimate consumer and I'm going through my commerce checkout, I can still pass through Forder capabilities. But if I'm not a legitimate consumer and there's issues of fraud, we can identify those as part of the commerce process. And that's why some companies like Aritzia and Electrolux and Metro have chosen to work with us both together to optimize the fraud. My favorite example was actually Chick-fil-A, not just because I'm from the South, but my 14-year-old son got his first job this summer at Chick-fil-A, and when he secured that job, I was able to share with him that Chick-fil-A partners with our organizations together to help manage the fraud as part of that process.
That's an amazing story, and I'm so glad to hear that he enjoyed his summer. One last question for you, Suzanne. You shared some great stories from very different verticals today, and we have many more verticals in this room. Are there any other consistent themes that you're seeing across your customer base?
Absolutely. So as we look at connecting better with customers, a lot of times it's how do we connect with those customers really in a personalized manner? And the best way to personalize the experience is to know more about those customers. At the same point in time, the way we know more about those customers is having data on those customers. And what McKinsey actually found is over 70% of consumers are comfortable sharing their information with a brand if they understand that the information is going to be used in a way to improve their customer experience. So we have the privilege to work with companies today to make sure that they're leveraging the information available, but they're doing it in a responsible way, in a way that meets the permissions that the end consumers have ultimately given them.
It's a really great insight and takeaway. So customers are willing to share their information so long as there's trust and value exchange.
Correct.
Suzanne, it's been great having you on the show. Everybody, please help me thank Suzanne for all her time and insight today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the final trend that Michael and Scott shared with us this morning is AI acceleration. And while sometimes, and many of us in the room can think about what happens when the AI is falling in the hands of bad agents, there's actually many of you in the room who are using AI to help good consumers. Our next guest is one of them. Matt Southworth is the Chief Information Security Officer at Priceline. Please welcome Matt to the stage. Hi, Matt. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Great to be here. Matt Southworth. I'm Chief Security Officer at Priceline, but I'm here to talk about products and fun stuff. They released me from the nerd caves, and I get to talk about cool stuff Priceline's doing with AI. I've got a few examples that we work on, and then I want to talk about how we manage the risk and govern it. From a product perspective, what we think about as leading in generative AI is a consumer-facing chatbot we call Penny. This is available on the hotels page. When you go to book, you have the opportunity to talk to Penny, and Penny will help you answer questions. Travel is for a lot of people, especially leisure travelers, it's a low-frequency, high-value transaction. and people get nervous about it. Penny lets our customers ask questions, free form, and get back the chatbot's best guess at an answer. You know, when we put together a hotel listing, we'll talk about the amenities, what the hotel offers, but we can't read the customer's mind and know what they want. And it seems like a lot of times, customers want to know if they can bring their pets. What if I have a dog? Can I book at this hotel? What if it's a big dog? What if it's a really, really big dog? These are the questions that Penny gets. And it's great because we can answer the customer's questions. We can get them to book right there in the chat bot. That transaction takes place safely and includes a screen by Forder. And we can learn from it what our customers want to know. What questions are on their mind? Are we doing the right thing in merchandising the product to them? So Penny, the AI chatbot, is what we're doing that's most exciting and most consumer facing. But there's other stuff we're doing on the back end with AI too. We are using generative AI to improve our merchandising and our hotel listing pages. And what this lets us do, thinking about personalization and identity, is breaking down those descriptions based on what we know about the customer. So we can present what's close by to the hotel differently based on who we think you are. It can be different for a young traveler or a grandma, although everyone wants to know how close the Starbucks is. They may care or not care about the pool or other offerings. We can generate these descriptions using generative AI, have them stored, and show them to the consumer based on what we know about them, know about their identity and their personality. We can also use generative AI to create marketing information and share that across all of our channels. And that's descriptions, that's text, that's pictures. It's really, really powerful for the marketing team to do something new and to iterate more quickly. Those are all sort of consumer facing, but as you move further back into the organization, the last area we're really looking at generative AI is making our most valuable resources, our employees, more productive. So that includes our developers being able to use tools to write code. That includes our fraud analysts, right? Being able to better understand what's coming in, what they're seeing. As a manager, sometimes I just want to know what's the parental leave policy in Mumbai. That information is somewhere in Confluence, but am I looking at the most recent? Am I getting the right information? Creating an internal chatbot that has access to all of those policies, all of that information, and allows people to answer questions like that. It's really cool, and it's cool that, as the security leader of the company, I get to be involved in all of this. And that's, sort of brings me to thinking about the risk involved. As we realized at the beginning of the year that we were going to really be investing a lot in generative AI and LLMs, we thought about how we could do it responsibly and safely. And so we put together an AI governance council, and it sounds fancier than it is. Really, it's just getting together the head of product, head of technology, head of security, head of privacy, head of compliance in a room every week and walking through the new proposed AI use cases. This got really busy for us over the summer when we had an internal hackathon, and 75% of the projects people wanted to work on was around generative AI. Since then, it's slowed down, but we still get together weekly and we review new use cases almost every week that our employees are thinking about and trying to implement. When we review them, we want to make sure that the product people and the dev leads who are putting these together are being responsible and thinking about things like disclosure, thinking about things like where is the model being run, what information are we sharing and feeding into the model, and how is a human going to manage and govern the process. We believe very strongly that there's always going to be human feedback and human governance over the output of these models. That's sort of the governance structure, and it's let us move really quickly and really quickly iterate on these new designs to launch something like Penny, launch internal tools. And on the more technical side of it, we've also been able to create a application security testing framework to test these new integrations. There's some great guidance from organization called OWASP on testing LLMs. We've taken this and we're doing it ourselves against new learning models that we launch, either consumer-facing or internally. I hope everyone in here has set up a ChatGPT account and played with it. What surprises me the most is I can ask it questions about compliance frameworks. I can ask it, here's a report on compliance. What stands out here? What questions should I ask the auditor or expect the auditor to ask me? It's really cool, and I love seeing my team think of new uses for these tools.
Matt, that's fascinating. Thank you so much. It's really, for me, it's super exciting. I have a 65-pound dog called Kiki. I think that falls within the big dog, not the big dog category, and I can't wait to ask Penny to help me find my next hotel.
Arlo is 80 pounds.
Big dog.
Yeah, he's a big dog.
Big dog. Yeah. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is how you're cross-collaborating with many other departments on this. So right here in the room, we have payments leader, risk leaders, fraud leaders. Can you share more about how you and your team like to collaborate with these very complementary departments?
Yeah, I'm only here because my fraud team pulled me in, right? It's daily conversations with those teams. I think our security team is really good at understanding the perimeter, understanding technical attacks. I think where we need help and where we work with other teams, especially the fraud team, is understanding the MOs behind the attacks. What's the attacker's motivation, right? How did they pivot here? Because at the end of the day, right, people are looking for a free trip, and we need to partner with them to prevent that. One of the best things about my role and the job overall is the ability to see into every part of the organization and see what people are doing and help them make the right decisions, right? Whether it's around AI or anything else on implementation.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I think we all very much from the fraud and payments and risk side very much love working with our CISOs in order to provide this better holistic experiences and also like really help with a lot of the centers of excellence that we see emerging in the industry. Now, you also, obviously, AI is helping you better understand consumer identities, but in order to do that, you also need to have a broad base of information and data that you can draw upon. Can you help us and share how, in your point of view, Fordor has helped in that overall effort?
Sure. And over the pandemic, people's booking behavior changed a lot, right? They went from, most people actually book when they're at work on their work laptop to booking from a mobile device at home or booking while they're on the road. And Fordor definitely helped us adapt to those changes much more quickly than we could have done on our own. I also think that the advantage we get, from working with a company like Fordor is really the broader view than we'd ever get ourselves, right? We're very constrained to North American customers, right? We're very constrained to what we know. Working with Fordor and working through these transitions has been really fantastic for us.
Yeah, and that's actually really insightful, right? Like the breadth of our persona graph really help trust not only to you, but all the customers that we have in the room and also their consumers. Yeah. So Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Everybody, please help me thank Matt. A big round of applause for him. Thank you.